My final point today is a public service announcement. A gun buyback is not a thing. The government cannot buy back something that they never owned. The government never owned my firearms. A gun buyback is a misnomer for forced gun confiscation by the government. A gun buyback means men from the government will take away your guns at the point of their guns. Let me remind you, AR-15s are the most popular guns in America. Yet, only 360 homicides are committed every year with rifles. AR-15s are semi-automatic rifles, so they're a subset of all rifles, which means that's less than 3% of total homicides in our country that are committed with AR-15s. Yet, there are 10 million AR-15s in our nation. That means 0.0035% of AR-15s are used to commit murder. That fact might surprise Democrats, but it shouldn't, because the United States accounts for 5% of the world's population, yet Americans own 45% of the world's firearms. But Americans commit less than 0.5% of the world's murders, and hat tip to Cabot Phillips for doing the math problem on that one. In other words, the guns are not the problem. More people are murdered in the United States every year with hands and feet than with AR-15s. And I don't see the Democrat politicians trying to buy back my fists or my roundhouse kick. 4 times more people are murdered with knives every year versus the number murdered with an AR-15. But I don't see Democrat politicians calling knives weapons of war or calling it an assault knife, because the weapon is not the problem. Bad people are the problem. And the best way to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. The government has no right, no authority to forcibly confiscate our firearms just because they're too ignorant to know that AR-15 stands for Armalite rifle, not assault rifle. The government has no right to forcibly confiscate our firearms just because a politician calls an AR-15 a weapon of war. That's the purpose of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not about personal self-defense. It's not about hunting. It's not about gun collecting. The Second Amendment guarantees us that, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And a so-called mandatory gun buyback violates that Second Amendment in our Constitution. And besides, my firearms are not for sale. And that's my final point.